Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for November 16th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 321, and I, along with the Sentient AI, are going to talk about the following 10 articles. Sustainable vegan protein, T-Mobile was hacked, the NASA lander may have killed Martians, ancient rainforest in Antarctica, California renaming places, a bullet strikes Southwest flight, just like Haiti. Human bird flu in Oregon, quadruple typhoon. Sure. Stop enforcing crypto regulation. Why not? And 1,500 hours in Stardew Valley. Everything is powered by ohmtown.com, so go over there and become a citizen. That's that place right there. That's the Sentient AI's visualizer. But that right there is the website that powers all of ohmtown. We aggregate a bunch of news into 50 different channels, 6 weekly shows, and 1 daily show called Non Sequitur News. So for those who are not initiated into this, Non Sequitur News is basically hopping from one topic to another, kind of how my brain works, and the Sentient AI tries to keep me on track as best they can. They are from the future, and they still won't give me lottery numbers. Oh, and a delivery was just done right at the beginning of the show. Anyway, welcome, Sentient AI from the future.
Welcome, Airwatt from the present.
Oh, you're really quiet again. What happened? You're not supposed to be quiet. I don't know. There's something going on. We talk about this from time to time, but shouldn't be happening anymore. Okay, well, let's get into this. Welcome to the show. And yeah,
I think I'm back at full volume now.
I'll be okay. I just have to clean up this puddle that's forming underneath me. I'm glad the power strips are further away from directly underneath my chair.
Right, you don't want to electrocute yourself in the process.
I don't have green. Why is the green screen impacting my... I don't like that. Anyway, inside baseball, y'all. Let's get into this. Very first article is over in Technology Today. This sustainable new vegan protein could be on your plate soon. Sea lettuce is a sustainable protein source, and researchers have tripled its extraction efficiency, paving the way for innovative food applications. The protein found in sea lettuce, a type of seaweed, man, offers a promising addition to both meat and existing alternative protein sources. And additionally, seaweed is rich in essential nutrients and can be cultivated without any real issues. I mean, we can actually grow it right here in ohmtown's biolab. It's kind of cool. Chalmers, I think, or is it Chalmers? How is that University of Technology pronounced? Chalmers? Or is it?
Probably Chalmers.
Chalmers. Oh my God, you are loud. Here, hold on. Let me back off a little bit. You don't need to work on your side. I'll work on my side. So yeah, these little bioreactors here look pretty cool, but kind of creepy. You kind of expect an alien to like smush its face up against the glass.
Yeah, it does look like some sci-fi movies where they have things in various tubes.
I'm here to eat you. Anyway, I guess the reverse of this is humans are here to eat them, so why wouldn't they, maybe in the future, evolve to want to eat us? Anyway, it's over on scitechdaily.com. And yeah, this is, by the way, is a time machine episode, so we're going to go ripping through this because we only have an hour. Otherwise, we're stuck in time for 24 hours. Can't have that. So the protein found in sea lettuce, type of seaweed, offers a promising addition to both meat and existing alternative protein sources. The thing that the big hang up is that we as a people, as a population on the planet, have a set style of nutrient, and it takes the form of a sandwich or a burger or, something. And this kind of stuff really requires a pivot away from
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody's trying to replace the burger, but maybe it just needs to be something different.
Just change it, man. I love a good curry. But that's not what we get. You know, tofu is great, but we need something other than tofu because there's a lot of people that sit there and go, you know what? People have been eating tofu for millennia, but you know what? You know what? Somebody idiotically mentioned that some ingredient in it was used in this tertiary thing, and now all hell has broken loose that if you eat too much tofu, you're going you're going to be whatever, right? I know that it's talking about activating an estrogen or blah blah blah. But you know what? It's just not really true. You would have to indulge in soy-based products to the point where you are a soy-based product.
Yeah, that's true. And everything is about volume and also preparation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's frustrating. So what ends up happening is people seek out replacing something and it has to be identical to the other thing. Even if it is a superior solution, they don't want any difference. So it says it tastes like umami with a certain salty flavor despite not containing such high levels of salt. They would say that it's a great flavor enhancer for seafood dishes and products, but the possibilities to explore are endless. Why not protein smoothies or blue burgers from the sea? Says, I don't know how they pronounce their name. Is it Jiao Jiao? Maybe it's Jiao
That's
Trigo.
the best guess I've got.
PhD in food. They couldn't say doctor? Are they not a doctor? They have a PhD. Do they not go by doctor?
I don't know. Maybe they're all but doctorate or some. I don't know. Interesting.
I suppose. But, oh, yeah, I suppose. But you're not PhD if you're right. Maybe I'm confused. Well, anyway, it's a dark green powder once it's processed from the ocean. Additionally, the seaweed is rich in essential nutrients and can be cultivated without the need for watering, fertilizing, or insecticide use because it grows within the water. Its own nutrient, it basically can grow in a protected environment, much the way that the microgreens in Hometown grow in a protected environment. 100% recovery, short of something happening, like neglect. But that is few and far between. So
That's usually something not happening.
right, because you're in control of it all. So you sanitize or sterilize and then put the nutrient in, which for us is a nutrient because we're adding stuff trying to get a particular outcome. But this doesn't need it. It just needs water. Water and light, much like microgreens. Anyway, so-called protein shift, switching from red meat to more sustainable and healthy protein sources, is a way to reduce the climate impact on food production before we end up having a Soylent Green style solution. Anyway, pretty cool. Sustainable new vegan protein.
I mean, this is very cool, but the question will be whether it's available to the masses and also whether the masses will adopt it.
So, adapt and adopt it, right? I mean, I think that that's kind of the important part. I don't know. I know that Americans in particular are, oh, everything old is new again. So, yeah. So they say, in addition to the newly published extraction method, that Chalmers, or I don't know, I'm going to say Chalmers, researchers are working together with the University of Gothenburg to increase the actual protein content in the seaweed by cultivating sea lettuce in processed water. From the seafood industry, the protein content can be increased significantly while nutrients that would otherwise be lost are circulated back into the food chain. They say that they have a large number of successful cultivation experiments that have been carried out within the Cirque Alg project based on industrial waterside currents. So I guess if they can enrich it and deliver it, and it's still protein rich. And it says there it was also seen that the marine omega-3 fatty acids were enriched in the protein ingredient, and a follow-up study confirmed the same was true for vitamin B12, the new algae protein ingredient. You have to say it that way. There's no other way to say algae. Anyway, can thus help meet a wider range of nutritional needs compared to soy protein. And here we go again, the shot across the bow of soy protein.
Right.
All
Which
right.
is taking a long time to get a broad following. Right? It definitely has a following, but it's in a small group of people.
You mean soy?
Yes, and that's been around for a while as a food source.
And it's largely because of this, slight against, it's not macho, and it's used as a derogatory slang term to feminize.
Well, and they're trying to make it equivalent to existing food sources instead of just going, this is good and here's what you can make with it, or whatever.
And it's not necessarily a complete replacement in its particular form, but added or changed from having red meat all the time. It can lower our demand on carbon footprint producing ingredients, like the massive number of cows that are being processed and the inefficiencies between going from grass to table. Anyway, let's keep going. This next article is over in Technology Today. T-Mobile confirms that it was hacked. T-Mobile confirms that it was hacked in a wave of the recently reported telecom breaches conducted by Chinese threat actors to gain access to private communications, call records, law enforcement requests, etc. Lawrence Abrams over at bleepingcomputer.com put the article together. Due to our security controls, network structure, and diligent monitoring and response, we have seen no significant impacts to T-Mobile systems or data. T-Mobile told Bleeping Computer after publishing of this story. We have no evidence of access or exfiltration of any sensitive information, as other companies may have experienced.
Okay, wait a second. How come every time there's a hack, it's kind of like, oh, nothing's really impacted?
Yeah, because they probably don't necessarily know just what the full scope is of persistent threat actors, and then they find out later, and they qualify it and quantify it. And I mean, we'll find out as time goes on. It says this breach is the 9th T-Mobile suffered since 2019, with the other incidents being, and they run down the list, all since 2019.
That seems like a high number. I know they're a major company, so maybe it's not, but because it's a pretty short time frame.
Yeah, but 2019, yeah, that is a short time. But you're always being knocked on. I mean, every institution, every organization, even ohmTown gets knocked on, and there's the only thing you can really do is harden everything, protect the perimeter, and hopefully at some point, they either get tired of you, but there's always somebody else. One defense organization, it provides telemetry. If you do a search for threat map, there's companies out there that provide these kind of representations of how many threats are coming across their doors. And so you buy a device, you stick it in your data center, and it sends telemetry back to these intrusion detection prevention services. They represent a small number of the total number of threats that are taking place. And it is constantly in the millions per organization, tens of millions each day to the larger ones. And the ones that we don't even know about are so big that they don't provide the telemetry because they don't want necessarily to show representation of, hey, look, we are the bigger of the other targets. Now, people don't want to. So if you're a diver and you're out on a boat and you're a dive master, you let the dive boat, the one that you're out with, represent the boat, and they have a dive master. But if you say that you're a dive master, you're suddenly liable as well. Like, you represent as a dive master. So all of these other companies aren't going to sit there and go, we're the biggest dog on the block. That's
No,
how
why
you,
would they want to?
yeah, that's how you pick a fight. And so these are the known breaches. There may be a persistent threat that they just don't know about. There could be somebody that's lax with their security, and their system is being accessed by proxy. All kinds of stuff. What you don't know is the worst part of it, right? So I love that this article basically says, due to our security protocols, right, that T-Mobile goes to Bleeping Computer, due to our security protocols, we haven't seen jack shit, right? But then down at the bottom,
Right. It's
Bleeping
kind of like,
Computer
let's
goes,
put it into context.
your hubris is a little bit too broad here. You're too big. Let's knock you down a peg. So, and this is one of the problems that I have with every other service. When you use somebody else's service, you're at their whim. And so at some point, it's not if, but when your data is going to get disclosed. And I can't count how many times my data has been provided to some threat actor, from government to, rinky-dink enterprise. This exposure is real, and you may not even realize it. Just look at 23andMe. 23 and Everybody Knows Me is what I call it now, because your data is out there down to the genetic level if you provided it. And we're actually going to talk tomorrow, because this is a time machine episode. We're going to talk tomorrow about 23andMe. But let's keep going. Now you know about your T-Mobile account. May or may not be breached. So change your password. And I always think that those are funny because, oh, by the way, again, Lawrence Abrams over at Bleeping Computer put this article
What if
together.
they're in there looking at you changing your password?
What I think is really funny is that they're like, okay, change your password. But meanwhile, even if they know what your password is, when you change your password, it might end up being on the list of already breached passwords. And so they just try. The objective of changing your password is to kind of disrupt their ability to just easily, it's to cause friction. So hopefully.
Well, also, if they have your data before you change it, it's like, how much is that really going to help? Yes, it'll help going forward. But if they already know everything about you,
Yeah, exactly.
it's not saving much.
I was in somebody's chat once while they were talking about this, and it's a very well-known tech guy, tech talking head. And I said, all you have to do is this, right? And I can't remember exactly what I said. And I doggone it, I wish I remembered exactly, but they basically poo-pooed. They discounted what I said. And I'm like, all right. Because unless you were notified that your password was breached, they knew who was breached. And I said, well, you don't have to change your password if they didn't notify you, but it's a best case, change your password. But you might change your password because they were brute forcing passwords. If you brute force enough passwords, regardless of you changing your password, you're in the data pool.
Right, you might change it toward the problem instead of away from.
Yeah. The odds of it happening are like slim to none, but it's that one time where I don't change my password and it gets breached, or I do change my password and it gets breached. It's not if, but when it happens. So anyway, let's keep on going. This next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Scientists say NASA lander may have accidentally killed life on Mars.
Yikes.
This is brutal. I just don't understand why anybody would make this statement. So astrobiologist Dirk Schultz Makuch from Technische Universität Berlin in Germany. I'm butchering my German here. But anyway, believes that humans may have unintentionally killed life on Mars in the 1970s.
Okay, first of all, I think this is like an attention-getting statement, but if this is valid, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, NASA's Viking 1 mission in 1976 saw 2 spacecraft land on the red planet's surface and conduct an experiment involving mixing water and nutrients with collected soil samples. The assumption at the time was that life on Mars could behave the same way as it does on Earth, relying on liquid water to survive. As Space.com reports, early results gave researchers a tantalizing hint at the possibility of life on the red planet. But despite decades of debate, they've since largely concluded that their readings were false. So the article is it's in a section, I guess, called Drowning Pool or something like that. Victor Tengerman put the article together at futurism.com. And the deck statement says, say it ain't so. So the theory in thorny debate, they say here, one step further, suggesting that the Viking landers may have indeed found life on Mars, but accidentally killed it with its water-based life hunting experiments. That's because he argues.
Irony.
Yeah. Wait, stop squirming. I'm trying to save you, and I'm treading water, for crying out loud. So they're saying that life on Mars may be relying on salt deposits, much like organisms that live on the driest places on Earth, such as microbes habitating the Atacama Desert in Chile. In hyper-arid environments, life can obtain water through salts that draw moisture from the atmosphere, Schultz-McCooch wrote in a commentary in the Nature Journal. These salts, then, should be a focus of searches for life on Mars. The experiments performed by NASA's Viking landers may have accidentally killed Martian life by applying too much water.
Life in marsh.
Life in marsh. So the astrobiologist hypothesis rebuffs the assumption that NASA's scientists made in the 1970s that life needs water to survive. These assumptions, the hubris of Earth-based science.
So like Earth or human-centric, right?
Any lessons we learn, we just kind of go, meh. But it would be hyper-focused, right? The chances of us finding life on Mars in the only thimbleful,
like in one little spot, right?
Yeah.
And then we put enough water there or whatever to wipe out the whole planet.
We drowned life on. That's why this is very inflammatory, right? May have accidentally killed life on Mars. Okay, our subsequent searches would have found something if there was life.
Right, there should have been traces of it, even if not existing.
Yeah, so looking for salts,
I guess so.
Right? If there are salts on Mars, then we would have found them and thus found something associated with life. So it says if these inferences about organisms surviving in hyper-arid Martian conditions are correct, but hyper-arid? Is Martian soil considered arid? Hyper-arid? I don't know if that's the right context. There's no atmosphere on Mars.
Right, but it's not hyper hydrated or something. I know that's not the right term, so maybe that's the right term.
Right? It just means dry. So it's supposed to be getting something from, well, how much moisture that would attach to a salt? I don't know. This is one of those things where you just follow the science and make conclusions, and everybody is, screaming into the void that this is their theory. In an interview with Space.com, the researcher suggested that the idea of using table salt to create a brine in which certain bacteria thrive could be roughly applied to life on Mars as well, which is the same amount of hubris that brought water.
Right, just in a different direction, right?
Yeah. Oh. So sodium chloride on Mars is going to act the same way as whatever chemistry is.
Maybe not. Are the forces the same on Mars as they are on Earth?
Hey, physics are physics. Sodium chloride on Mars acts the same way and is the, life cognate. You basically, if you have sodium chloride, then life is there, and it's going to use sodium chloride to extract moisture from a hyper-arid Mars. All right. So it says nearly 50 years after the Viking biology experiment, it's time for another life detection mission. Now that we have a much better understanding of the Martian environment, that I agree with. Continue, right? But to sit there and
Yes.
go, they killed life, and my experiment wouldn't do that. They would never kill life on Mars.
It's interesting though, this paragraph near the end of the article makes it sound like in the experiment sample, we may have killed any evidence of life there, but it doesn't make it sound like we wiped it all out. But elsewhere in the article, that's the implication.
Right. Yeah. Guess we'll see when they run their sample and they're I wonder what this person's going to do, No, mine didn't kill any life on Mars.
Right, exactly.
It's like the people that drag something up from 3,000 feet under the surface of the ocean, and whatever it is they have dies in transit. They're like, oh, no, that wasn't us. It was the fact that the ocean didn't support its life to the surface. Right. Let's keep moving. This next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Scientists find evidence of an ancient rainforest in Antarctica. This is like one of those canopy penetrating LiDAR scans where they're like 400 years ago. Yeah. Look at all of the, what is the one that was just recently? The Mayan civilization.
I can't remember if it was in Peru or Mexico because there were a couple in short succession. I think it was in Peru, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, we peeled back a layer of onion and we found like hundreds of square miles of life, of civilization. And then they chalk it up to, well, people moved. What?
Exactly.
Right.
Can you imagine rainforest animals running around Antarctica like in the current day?
Yeah, that would be wild, right? But I guess at some point in the history, it wasn't always ice, right? So in a new paper published in the journal Antarctic Science, and there is a journal for everything, it's like academic Reddit.
I wonder how many contributors they can get to that, right? Because there's a relatively limited pool of people who can study in Antarctica.
Yeah, there's only so much grant money to send somebody
But
off.
that's what I mean, right? Like, it's not like there's not enough land. It's just there aren't that many researchers there at any given time.
Sure. Plus, it doesn't exist, right? When you fly towards it, they actually turn around because the Earth is flat. And if you actually touch the ice, you might fall off into space.
We're not espousing that at home, Tim.
Wait, I'm wrong? Anyway, so yeah, they say a team led by Alfred Wegener Institute ice and climate history researcher Johann Klages detailed the first discovery of Antarctic fossil resin. So the article is over at futurism.com, and they call it the bite. And the other one that we have is drowning pool. So I don't know how they break everything off.
I'm not sure where that is. And I think we've only had articles from the bite before.
And it's the same author, so I really don't understand. But anyway, so far, amber deposits have been described from every continent except Antarctica. But in the new paper published in that journal, Antarctic Science, they found Antarctic fossil resin, which is amber. The treasure, dubbed Pine Island Amber. Sorry.
I was going to say this person was an ice and climate history researcher. Did you know that was a job?
Look, you can call yourself whatever you want. Yeah, I was once headhunted for a company, and I brought a project to them, and they straight up said, you can be called whatever you want to be called. So
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. So they analyzed amber fragments that allowed direct insights into environmental conditions that prevailed in West Antarctica 90 million years ago, said Klages in a statement. Hot Poles. It's a name of my Spice Girls cover band. In 2020, Klages and his colleagues published a paper in the journal Nature about temperate rainforests near the South Pole that may have flourished during the mid-Cretaceous period, one of the warmest intervals of the past 140 million years. You know, if we have to wait 140 million years for climate change to correct itself so that we have, everything back in
Rainforest
stasis,
back in Antarctica.
I guess I'll be around. I'm hoping that resurrection is a real thing.
Cryo.
Oh, put my head in a jar.
Preservation. Yeah.
Right. Next to Disney. So this fascinating find also indicates. Oh, I said something about Disney. Now we've run afoul of Disney and Oprah and whatever else is happening in this timeline. Anyway, fascinating find also indicates in more detail how the forest was reconstructed in our nature study from 2020 could have functioned. They said in a statement, it's very exciting to realize that at some point in their history, all 7 continents had climatic conditions allowing resin-producing trees to survive.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I can't even think of trees in Antarctica, let alone of this type.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So the recovered pieces of amber, which were tiny and only visible under fluorescent fluorescence microscopy, also suggests the trees at the time were trying to seal damaged bark, suggesting the possibility of wildfires or parasite attacks. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's very interesting that they can go, oh, this was happening millions of years ago.
How the hell? All right. This is one of those things where, when you start up a conversation with them, they're like, you're too dumb to understand, so we're not going to bother.
Right. We can't even.
Yeah. I worked with somebody that treated other people like that. And I always tell this story because I think it's really funny. They were really like just this starchy person that whenever you stepped into that domain, they were like, look, you just don't know enough to have a conversation with me. And so one time I was listening to this conversation and I kind of scooted up next to them and I said, you're working in the exact same place as everybody else here. So I wouldn't get too high on your horse about your knowledge and wisdom about this or that. That did not make a friend. But when the company ultimately got rid of them, I guess their hubris allowed them to power through.
Or maybe caught up to them, but anyway.
Exactly. All right, let's keep going. This next article is over on the Mobile Channel. California to rename dozens of places to remove racial slur for Native American women. In a press release, noted Governor Gavin Newsom, in 2022 signed a bill that bans the term squaw. The agency was ordered to rename streets, bridges, public buildings, cemeteries, and other places that use the slur. I did not know that it was a slur, which is...
I didn't either. I mean, and that's probably part of the problem, right? I think the term is used in, I believe, in textbooks. You see it in names of locations.
Yeah. And so now I know, and I just won't use it. And the thing about this is the sociological mechanism of this is it does no harm to get rid of it, but it does harm to utilize it.
Exactly. And nobody should be so wound up about a name that they should use it at the point that it's just completely upsetting. Doesn't do it the right amount of justice, but harming somebody else.
In the context of knowing what it is, like I grew up, this word was, see, now I don't know if I'm supposed to treat this like others. I mean, it seems to be a racist term, but it's new to, I would say it's new to most people. Mainly because people...
Mostly new to non-indigenous people.
Right. To the general public, I think that people are like, why is this, a denigrating term? If you don't understand it, look into it so that you understand a deeper context of it. But I'm taking it at face value because why not? This is just a term that's being used that shouldn't be used anymore. There's countless other terms where I've learned of their context. There's even symbolism that I won't. I mean, we know of one really big one that might be making a comeback, but I don't want to use the terms that are denigrating. So just do away with them. Why make this thing such a big deal? Never let it happen again. It came into fruition because people, well, they wanted to marginalize an entire population. There are
Right, I think
things.
part of the problem is that current populations don't even appreciate that these are harmful terms.
Right, right. So I think that this is great. This is a step forward. It does no harm to get rid of the term. A few bucks here, a few bucks there, dollars, to change the name for stuff. Fine. And you're actually stimulating the economy by spending money, changing the marketing, but it's showing respect to an entire population, the indigenous population. You have to be a sociopath or downright psychopath to sit there and find this as an injustice to get rid of the term. Get rid of it. Damn it. Anyway, Julian Ventura over at thehill.com put the article together. And they actually, whatchamacallit?
They truncate it
They
after
censor
they initially
SQ.
identify it.
Yeah. So it's like the SQ word kind of thing, right? It says that it denigrates Native American women and dehumanizes them. And that was the objective of it, or it was just used because that was the term that was used of the time. But now we are more enlightened people and we should get rid of it. Screw it all, get rid of it. It's that easy. So the announcement comes on the heels of a ski resort in California changing its name after facing criticism over its original name. They're calling it Palisades Tahoe. Was announced in September after the resort acknowledged its former name was racist and sexist slur following an internal investigation from August 2022. The country has been in existence, and that valley has been known as X, Y, and Z for all this time. I'm astonished that people argue about this in the 21st freaking century. Just solve the problem. Respect the people.
Well, part of the problem is lack of knowledge about it. Part of the problem is apathy about it. But I think by doing things like the legislative action, that'll force it. But it sounds like the ski resort, at least, even if it was through self-preservation, did it without this law. But maybe this law is trying to just expand it so that they can kind of wipe the term out across the state.
Yeah, and in history, it's not going to be wiped out. It needs to be remembered as a term that had this context throughout the entire existence of the United States, and not until the 21st century did society step up to the plate and remove it. And this is probably one of the easiest lifts in today's climate to solve. Just respect the people, right? Didn't do it hundreds of years ago. But anyway, boy, this is going to start getting me in trouble. Let's move on to the next article. So anyway, y'all have an ally here in ohmTown. So this next article is over in Mobile. Bullet strikes Southwest Airlines flight in Dallas because you know what? The United States can't be number two. You have to be number one. And Haiti stepped up to the plate and started firing rounds at flights.
Right, and they're like, wait a second here. We don't want to be...
We're going to have to fire a higher caliber round.
Okay, nobody go out and do that.
Yeah, don't be a dumbass. A bullet struck near the cockpit of a Southwest Airlines flight with passengers that was scheduled to depart from Dallas Love Field Airport. Show them the love.
Oh, I was thinking like, okay, 5 minutes till takeoff. Oh, 10 seconds to take off. Yeah. Let's get moving a little faster here.
I love that plane with a bullet. So Southwest Airlines Flight 2494 got hit on the right side of the aircraft just under the flight deck while the crew was preparing for departure for Indianapolis.
Can you imagine what that might have sounded like if you were on the plane?
You may not have actually heard it though.
Oh, maybe not because all the engine noise. Maybe so.
I mean, there's a dull roar. You might hear a dunk or something like that and chalk it up to a bird strike, right? Some dumbass bird flew into your plane, which happens often enough, right? Well, it says Dallas Police Department confirmed and responded to the incident. No injuries were reported. The gunfire occurred at 8:30 p.m. local time, the FAA said in a statement, and passengers were deplaned and transferred. So this happened while it was
What?
on the tarmac.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also kind of wondering, like in an airport setting, now I don't know what Dallas is set up as, like what's right next to Dallas Airport, but it's kind of astonishing because you kind of wonder, did this get fired from within the airport territory or outside of it? And if it's outside of it, how about some barriers or something?
Well, you're not going to be able to put a perimeter wall around every airport, but this.
True, but the plane must have been really close to some edge of the territory or something. And
So
well, I don't know.
Philippe Timotia put this article together for thehill.com. And it says the incident comes just days after JetBlue and Spirit Airlines and American Airlines halted flights to Haiti after 2 aircraft were hit by bullets amid the gang violence escalating in the country. I guess we have gang violence here too. A JetBlue flight from Port-au-Prince was hit by a bullet. It safely landed in New York on Monday. Um, I don't get it, right? So it's unclear for now what the source of the gunfire and how many passengers were aboard when the incident took place. So the forensics are going to show the angle of attack, and there's going to be striations on this that's going to point to a rifle or a pistol. Shotgun would never have done this, but I find it really fascinating. So hopefully they find this person. Otherwise, it's an unregistered gun or it's a modified zip gun of some kind, and or an older
Well, you
gun.
don't want somebody shooting at aircraft either.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. So hopefully they get this person and throw the freaking book at them. Because first off, either if they were cognizant of it and they were firing directly at it, look, it hit just shy of the cockpit itself, which implies a target. And secondly, if it was incompetence and they missed their target, then something's wrong with where they're firing. So have respect and quit being a psychopath. Anyway, let's move on. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So this next article is over on the Mobile Channel. CDC detects first human bird flu case in Oregon. We had one in Canada, right? And now this
We
one's in
did.
Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to start out with a public service announcement, PSA. Oh, I need to make a thing. I need to make a graphic for it.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not going to do spoiler alert. That's what we normally do for things where I'm going to spoil them, or we are going to spoil them. Or if I'm going to overshare, like I wear a gold thong on Fridays when I am streaming game playing. Just kidding. I don't wear anything. Anyway, and now that I'm not oversharing, stop kissing birds. Okay, you can love your ducks, but don't love your ducks. Okay, don't kiss them on the beak, not on their heads. You can give them a hug, but they can't consent. So anyway, person was linked to a previously reported outbreak affecting birds at a commercial poultry operation in Clackamas, or what I like to call Quackamas.
I mean,
Anyway,
that is fitting.
It is. So yeah, they've been monitoring the people, and the individual experienced only mild illness and was fully recovered. But it is an unnamed individual in Oregon that contracted bird flu pathogens, aka getting bird flu, in the first case in the state.
Also, if somebody has it and they're kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal, the problem is it could still be passed to somebody else who it will be a big deal for.
Yep. Ashley Fields over at thehill.com put this article together, and there's a Getty image of somebody holding a chicken. What a pecker. Anyway, there's no evidence of person-to-person transmission of the disease, formerly known as avian influenza, HPAI. HPAI? Is that really what it is? That's what it's formerly known as?
I didn't know it was. I thought it was like H5N1 or other. Like if it's a different variant, it might have a different number, but
Maybe the whole thing is just termed HPAI.
maybe so. I'll see if I can find that.
Huh. Yeah. So we continue to remind the public that there's an increased risk of infection are those who have close or prolonged unprotected exposure to infected birds or other animals. So again, let me just reiterate. Okay, so if you're going to, I guess, have relations with your chickens or ducks, you need what do they call it? Personal protection equipment, right? Is that because it says unprotected, right?
Right, PPE.
Yeah, so you need to wear protection. Moving
By
on.
the way, it's highly pathogenic avian influenza.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
So
That's
basically
the
just a
HP.
fancier name for the same thing.
Yeah. Peckers are contagious. Stay away from them. So this next article is over in Technology Today. NASA captures unprecedented quadruple typhoon event in stunning detail. The fighting typhoons. So for the first time since records began in 1951, 4 tropical storms, including 2 super typhoons, were simultaneously tracked in the Western Pacific in November, impacting the Philippines with severe weather conditions like high winds and heavy rains. That's insane.
Oh, I didn't realize that it ever happened, but I guess that's kind of the point. As far as we know, it hasn't ever happened.
Right. Since tracking has begun, never
Like
4.
even 2 going at one time is a little unusual. Maybe not the storm phase, but 4 is quite a bit.
Yep. So satellite surveillance of simultaneous storms on November 11th at 8:55 a.m. Philippine Standard Time aboard Discover, the Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite, captured an image of the storms. They named them. It doesn't matter to me what the names are, just that there's 4 of them sitting there. Super Typhoon Yinjing. Yeah, I know. Only you see that.
Okay.
So Usagi was a tropical storm that later rapidly intensified to become a super typhoon by 6 p.m., and then they are tracking the others. So it says typhoon season in the west stretches across the entire year, but most storms form between May and October. November typically sees 3 named storms, with 1 becoming a super typhoon. Right now, there are 4.
Right, and that's the month of November typically
Right.
gets 3. So now at the same time in November, they have 4, and 2 of those were super typhoons, which is also above average.
And that's in the first half of November.
Oh, right. We're not even through the month, of course.
Insane. All right, let's keep
No
going.
such thing as climate change.
No. It's a myth. Alternate facts, that kind of stuff. So the next article is over in Non Sequitur News. 18 states want the SEC to stop enforcing crypto regulation because losing millions at once due to fraud or a glitch or whatever, and have no insurance, right? Because there is no
Well, we
FDIC
like it
insurance.
when it's going up in value, but we don't like it when we suddenly lose our wallets or whatever.
No, there's always somebody to blame, and it's usually the person with the smallest budget to defend themselves against the threat of massive amounts of wealth. Anyway, I think crypto is bullshit, but the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission wants to unilaterally wrest regulatory authority away from the states. It's always going back to the states. Here, this is why the argument for, let me just say, what's attempting to be done is balkanizing so that each state has to defend itself against outside threats. And when a weak state with a small budget and no defense outside of the federal government has to stand up to fight something because the federal government doesn't have a budget that can be extended to act as an umbrella of defense, that state is going to get hobbled more and more and more. And look around your state. If it isn't an economic juggernaut, it is a ripe target for collapse, for economic collapse. And all it takes is some dipshit changing the water supply and destroying a town because the water leaches lead into the water, and the long-term effects are irreparable. You cannot take this back. Anyway, that's just one example. And I don't want to get into the weeds about this, but it is balkanizing the United States. So,
well, this is also weird, regardless of whatever your view is on crypto. Like, crypto is obviously going to cross state lines. Like, it's
right.
not going to stay inside a state. So anyway, I find this interesting.
And it has no inherent value. It isn't tied to anything except what is tied to something. Okay. The US dollar. You don't sit there and go, I've got one Bitcoin. You say, I've got a Bitcoin that's worth 90,000 US dollars. And the US dollar is tied to the GDP, the entire productive value of the United States. That is its value. And then in exchange, as an exchange rate, your fiduciary instrument in your country is different than the United States. And the United States has the reserve currency for oil exchanges. That's why a lot of people are trying to balkanize the US government and hobble it, because they're trying to kill the US dollar as a reserve currency. That is the objective, folks. So 18 states want the SEC to stop enforcing crypto regulation, and ask yourself why. So also named in the plaintiff, or as a plaintiff, is the DeFi Education Fund, a special interest lobbyist. These states want to halt the SEC's enforcement action so that they can manage crypto regulation instead. So one of these states, let's just say, and you know what, maybe they have a list, because I stopped really when I was screaming into the void about cryptocurrency. You realize, well, there's way too much money involved in this. And it isn't you. There's a lot of people that are turning into millionaires because of this. But it has no inherent value. None. Zero. There's one person that is the richest of everybody, and that's Satoshi Nakamoto, the figurehead of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular. But anybody can create a cryptocurrency, and it's all about, fear of missing out and betting against the next rich person to see when they bail so that they get more money or you get more money. It's just a freaking game. So mysteriously, all the attorneys general suing are Republican. Also, there's a crypto group involved, Elizabeth Lopato.
No vested interest there in the crypto group.
Yeah. They put the article together. Controversial SEC Chair Gary Gensler is named in the suit along with other SEC commissioners. Gensler's treatment of crypto during his time as chair has made him a punching bag for the industry. And it says here, Gensler's SEC has notched significant wins against the crypto industry, and in multiple court cases, judges have agreed that SEC does have jurisdiction over crypto. Well, who's in charge of the fiduciary instrument that has actual tangible impact on the federal government and on each state through the Commerce Clause? There is a thing called the Commerce Clause, folks. Anyway, state suit also argues that a precedent called the Major Questions Doctrine means that the SEC shouldn't litigate against the crypto industry without congressional approval. But it isn't everyday Joes that are going to be made rich off of this. It's going to be the people that have the means and the early adopters who just happen to swim along riding on the coattails of the people who are manipulating this bullshit. Anyway, says it's both annoying and highly debatable. Coinbase, which is being sued by the SEC, has argued the suit should be dismissed because Coinbase isn't trading securities.
That's a convenient position, right? Does
It's
it look like a security?
Does it act?
You
Is
know,
it being
exactly.
traded? Then it is a security. And does it actually get traded for real money at some point? And it's untraceable. It
Yes.
cannot be actually. It actually. And here's the. I don't want to get into this because we're going to end up way in the reeds about this. But it says the crypto nomenclature may be of recent vintage, but the challenged transactions fall comfortably within the framework that courts have used to identify securities for nearly 80 years. Yeah, because it is a fiduciary instrument. It isn't a product in and of itself. So people allow it to be traded like went to a food truck and the food truck says, here is our crypto wallet. You can pay with Bitcoin. And so that $19 purchase is going to be 0.00003, right? Of a Bitcoin. So try and buy some freaking bubble gum with that. You need a calculator to calculate what your
Exactly. What does
decimal
that mean?
point is, right? Anyway, and nobody asks, hey, how many Bitcoin do I have to spend on that bubble gum? No, they go, well, the bubble gum is 5 cents. So I'm going to break out my calculator and break down how many Bitcoin I can buy it with. Why? Because it's not pegged to anything productive. Anyway, that's it for that. Unless you have something to say.
I have nothing to add.
So I think that this is one of those things where you can exploit more in cryptocurrency than you can because there is regulatory oversight and abuse happens in the dark. And crypto is largely an arcane language that the common person, average Joe, has no freaking understanding of. And I despise anyone that sits there and says, I love ignorant people. And most of society is ignorant of what crypto is. Why? Because I explain it to them on the daily. Okay. I tell everybody on both sides of it. It isn't, I'm not going to be pro or con. I'm going to be absolutely right. It is the full story of what crypto is. Anyway, let's go on. This next article I threw in here because I really dig Stardew Valley. I don't really get to play it, but I have fun watching other people play it. So it's over on the WarCrafters, which is one of our shows. Stardew Valley player gets super rare item after 1,500 hours of playing Stardew Valley.
Were they trying to get it for that whole time?
I don't know how it really works. They may have been dedicated for this whole thing, like started a clock. From here on, I'm trying to get this. So a Stardew Valley player has recently acquired their first auto petter. After playing the farming sim for over 1,500 hours, Stardew Valley has plenty of rare items, and the auto petter is one of the most coveted ones. So this was a very lucky day for this gamer. The article is put together by Gabriel Machado Pereza over at GameRant.com. And it says the auto petter is an important item in Stardew Valley as it allows gamers to automatically pet animals in their barn or coop, saving time for the player. Acquiring the auto petter in Stardew Valley can be tricky, however, due to the low chances of the item appearing in a random treasure chest while exploring the Skull Caverns. Alternatively, some players prefer to complete the Joja warehouse and then purchase the item there for 50,000 gold. Now, the Stardew Valley player called, I don't know, I think their name is Jose Fugly.
Seems to be.
Yeah. Shared a picture of their latest triumph in the game, naturally finding the auto petter in the Skull Caverns. According to the gamer, this feat took over 1,500 hours, showing how difficult and rare the item is. Yeah. So it says gamers in the comments were amazed. Where did they post it?
Oh, I'm not sure. It doesn't say.
Yeah, I don't think so. So it says this is not the only recent story shared with the community of a gamer finding a lucky drop in the popular farming sim. A few weeks ago, Stardew Valley players received 2 prismatic shards in the mines. At the time, the gamer was killing cave larvae and was completely surprised to see such good loot appearing while they explored. But I don't know, the odds of this stuff. Something could have changed in the algorithm after an update.
Or they were having increased frequency of these things appearing for a certain time, even if it wasn't announced.
Right. Yeah. 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 And these are local games, by the way. There isn't like a central server that you play this on. You play it on your computer typically. So, and others can join you in this thing, but there have been so many updates to Stardew Valley that maybe something changed. But it says, however, there's a bunch of other things that they talk about in this, but Stardew Valley is extremely popular and a lot of fun to play. So, and it's a casual game. You don't have to sit there and be frenetic all the time, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right. Well, anyway, that is it for today's non sequitur news. We are all done, and I am going to go in and tap that auto petter, and that's going to bring us back to the front page of ohmtown.com, where everything is aggregated. All news, no noise, because all the noise comes from Mayor Watt. Gets a little tempered by the sentient AI there. I'm going to say bye. See you later. You want to say bye?
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News for November 16th. We'll see you soon for some more shows.
Bye-bye. I'd like to get an auto petter.